All right, welcome everyone to the BetLogic.ai YouTube channel. If you haven't seen my previous video explaining our BetLogic tool that we have for free use on the internet, absolutely, literally, I don't even know how to set up something to put your credit card number in, so you do not have to give any information or create any account to utilize this tool. It's free to use as of now, at least. But if you haven't seen that previous video, go and check it out if you're interested. If not, let's hop into my favorite bets of the week utilizing both my extensive knowledge of watching way too much football and our BetLogic.ai artificial intelligence model tool that gives us what would be good sportsbook odds. But let's hop into our money line bets here. As you can see, if you didn't see our previous video, green does typically mean good. We have three of our main sports books listed here to the right. Now, once again, if you haven't seen our previous video, I would take all of these predictions with somewhat a grain of salt, and I would use your own judgment when taking them. However, we were profitable throughout all of last year. And last week, taking 130 recommended bets last week, so a very large sample size. But one of my favorite bets to start off with is going to be the Bengals versus the Ravens here. These are going to be in no particular order as well, but hopping into kind of our matchup page here, not the prettiest page in the world, but it does display information. So this betting section, fair money line odds, if you're able to find any odds better than 118, that would be considered profitable odds for this game for the Ravens. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. I really do. You know, I always think that these AFC North matchups are kind of slugfests. I really do, and I think that the Ravens are really good on the ground. Obviously, they have Lamar Jackson. I know J.K. Dobbins got hurt, but it's a running back, and J.K. Dobbins, while being a pretty good running back, you can replace him with a replacement-level running back, and you're not missing a whole lot there. But once again, these AFC North matchups do become kind of slugfest where, they're battling out in the trenches. You saw last week with the Bengals and the Browns, very kind of a low scoring matchup. Obviously, the Bengals came out very slow, only scored 3 points. I don't expect Burrow and that Bengals offense to drop only 3 points for the rest of the season, but they did come off to a little bit of a slow start here, and I think the Ravens are a little bit underrated. I think another week of that new offensive coordinator with Lamar Jackson, they're going to use his legs more. They're probably going to get Zay Flowers the ball a bunch. That guy is electric with the ball in his hands. And then another week of Odell Beckham Jr. getting back on his feet. So I think the Ravens, I don't think that they're the most likely team to win this game. However, I think those plus 160 odds are looking really, really good. And if we look at our implied probability calculator here, let me pop it up. That 160 has an implied win percentage of 38%, and I think the Ravens have a much higher percent chance of winning that football game than 38% chance of winning. Going to our next favorite game of the week when it comes to betting, we're going to take the Seahawks plus 200 on Bovada and FanDuel. 195 on DraftKings is also a very good number. But looking at our matchup page here, we actually have the Seahawks as projected as the favorites in this one as compared to what Vegas has them. Now, I don't necessarily think they're the favorites. That's just what the model thinks, and it's only 1 week of data to go off of. But I still do very much like the Seahawks plus 200. I'm a big fan of that number. And that's because the Lions, while they did beat the reigning Super Bowl champs last week, I would be honest, I don't think they looked all that impressive doing so. It looks good. They scored 21 points, but their offense only scored 14 of that, and that defensive touchdown wasn't really even a forced, defensive touchdown. It was basically just handed to him by Kadarius Toney. I think the Chiefs kind of just beat themselves in this game, and I don't think the Lions impressed a whole lot. They needed to go for it on 4th and 2 with a fake punt on their own 15-yard line in order to score on that first drive. In order to get half the points their offense scored, they needed to do that. So I don't think they impressed me a whole lot. I do expect them to use Jahmyr Gibbs more, which should help their offense be a little bit more explosive. But outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, their receiving weapons are a little bit mid. But the Seattle Seahawks, they didn't have a great week last week. Geno Smith didn't look great. However, he was at least average all of last season. He did only have like 3 elite games, and then the rest of the season he was probably like the 16th to 20th best quarterback. But that's okay. I mean, with the weapons that he has around him, DK Metcalf, I believe, is Tyler Lockett going to be out? I thought I remember him being injured, but they still have great weapons. DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I think Noah Fant is kind of an underrated receiving weapon. Or I think they have great skill position players, and their run defense isn't great, but the Lions' rushing offense isn't the greatest either. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs isn't going to be taking the balls up the tackles, and David Montgomery is their backup running back. They do have a great offensive line, but I think that the Seahawks will be able to handle that, and I think their offense is going to do a great job scoring against the Lions. Now, like, once again, personally, I don't think that the Seahawks should be favored in this game. I don't think they have a higher than 50% chance of winning this game, but hopping into our applied odds calculator here with, what are they, 200? Oops. With plus 200, calculate that. I think they have a higher than 33% chance to win this game. I think if they play 10 times, they probably win at least 4 to 4.5 of those times. So I do like the odds in the Seahawks there, money line. All right, one more money line bet here, hopping into the Buccaneers. We have the Buccaneers minus 148. Big fan of this one. I think the Buccaneers are a little underrated this year. I know they have Baker Mayfield at quarterback, and I'm not a Baker Mayfield truther by any means. I don't even think he's a good quarterback. I don't even think he's an average quarterback, to be honest. But the rest of that team is still solid. I mean, they still have Levante David. They have Shaquille Barrett. They still have Devin White. They still have Antoine Winfield on that defense, and they still have the two great weapons of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I still think that this team has a lot of good pieces, and I think it's going to be hard for them to be as bad as a lot of people think they're going to be, in Caleb Williams territory. And I just don't think so. I think they're probably a 6 to 7 win team, maybe even more in that awful division that they're in. But looking at the Chicago Bears, this team, last week when the Packers were underdogs, I was hammering the Packers. At one point, it was Packers plus 120 to money line, and I was hammering that because while I think everyone was expecting Justin Fields to take a Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts level jump in his third season, and it's happened twice in the last 4 years, but that's a rarity. You don't see quarterbacks get that much better often. That doesn't happen a lot. It's only been, those two guys in the last 10 years have done that. So, while I expect the Bears to be better than they were last year, I don't think they're the worst team in the league, mostly because I don't think anyone can be worse than the Cardinals. But I don't think they're that good. I think their skill position is still below average. And their defense, that defensive line is bad, and I don't think they improved that much from last year. All right, hopping into our next bet here. Once again, Broncos homer here, so maybe this is me being a little bit too optimistic, but I'm really liking the Broncos over 37.5 here. Broncos Commanders over 37.5. I know Sam Howell didn't look that great last week, but he didn't look awful, and I think Russell Wilson, he looked way better than his stat line was last week. If you watch the Broncos game, you would be like, oh, this offense is moving. This looks great. And then you'd look up at the clock and you'd see there's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and they only have 16 points. I think their offense was moving a lot better than people think it was. I think Russell Wilson was playing better than his stat line showed. And I think the Commanders have some great weapons around Sam Howell that you can only be so bad. I could easily see this game going to be 23-21 or a score of that nature. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my favorite bets of the week. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorite bets of the week are. So go ahead and parlay these, and I guarantee you money. Sue me. I guarantee it.